I'll just kind of gently loosen it up and get it off. Gotta be careful because you don't want to break it. I don't know how I'm gonna lift this off and unscrew all these nuts. I'll get back to you when I get it off. Alright, so I just took the starter out. It was right there because I found these two more bolts all the way under here, under the gears. And I wasn't able to reach this one. Alright, so I'm gonna have to find a way to get this gear off. I think I just have to like pry it up with something like, I mean, this thing's too small. I'm just gonna bend or break this. That's how you get the flywheel off. I didn't actually show that in my first video because I didn't know how to get it off. Now I know how to get it off. That's how you get it off. Alright, I got all the top off. Figured out how to get that off. But these two gears are plastic, which I'm not a fan of. And I have no idea how this engine works. It's not even close to the same as the other two that I did. There's two timing points on here. There's a dot there and there. This has orange on it, meaning that must be the timing on it, but there's a dot there as well. And this one has two dots as well. So I'm gonna have to do some research on that before I take this apart because I have no idea what I'm even looking at right now. Looking at these, this side has a compression release. This side does not. And you can see the spot here where it would go. But on here, you can see the spring goes through this piece here, which is that right here. And this side does not have that. And then your governor is right here. That's controlled by this gear here, which is also a thing. This opens up and it throws oil all over the engine. And then I gotta get another gasket for this as well, I guess, because it's all ripped up here and here. So I have to peel all this off and make sure I clean the outside of that really good. And on this side where it's got a gasket here, I have to clean it like this. And then I can go ahead and put it back together. So I guess I'll get back to you whenever I get that part. Alright, so I got the new part here. So I'm going to pull this one out. And I want to make sure I keep it on the in. When I put it in, I gotta put the in lined up with the dot, not the X. And then I'm going to replace this washer, this whole gear. I want to see if this looks worn down compared to this one. Oh, this one has an extra hole in it. I don't know, I guess this one kind of looks fatter than this one. Maybe. I mean, you can see the wear on there. I just don't know about that other hole. I kind of have it tight, but I don't want it too tight because I want this to move still. And you can see that the rod lines up with that hole. So then when that gear is on, that'll have it move, which pushes out the valve. And however all that works, I really have no idea. Alright, I'm going to take the new one. Make sure it's the intake, not the exhaust. Make sure to get that dot to dot. I don't know if you guys can see that dot. You can kind of see the dot to dot. Get my new washer. I was gonna say this looks like my old one. My new one I already put up here. Right there. And then I gotta go grab my oil. That's the bad oil. I got my good oil right here. That's where it is. I'm gonna cover this in oil, rub oil on there. And then also I would put some grease on the end of this. And maybe put some grease on this. That way, when it rubs, it'll have some grease and it'll keep it lubed. So when I get done with that, I'll cover it up with the cover, put some oil in it, and see if she runs. Alright, I went ahead, greased everything. Make sure I got it dot to dot. And then I went ahead and covered everything in a little bit of oil. Now we're good to put this top part on. And then we gotta make sure this lines up, because that lines up in this groove or it won't close otherwise. I gotta use two hands for this. Make sure all my wires that are on this are out of the way. That way I'm not closing them in. Okay. I got it all closed. And you don't want to force it shut, because you might break something. So like I have this gap here, which is now reminding me that I have to put a seal on there. So now I have to take this back off. Well, learn from my mistakes. Everything's dot to dot. Got the exhaust, the intake, dot to dot. This will be held in place by this. That should be in place. Now I should be good to put the gasket seal on. I'm about to forget to do that again. What did I do with that? Right here. Alright, I'm gonna start putting the seal on, and when I get done with that, I'll get back to you. Alright, I got a nice line layer of a gasket seal all the way around. So now I can put the cover on. Also, you want to get the cover as clean as you can where the gasket's gonna go, because otherwise it might come off and still leak. I'll get back to you when I get the cover on, because it's easier with 2 hands. Alright, now I got all my bolts in place. I got my stuff down. There's a type of pattern you're supposed to do. I just go diagonal and keep going and do them as tight, not super tight, because you don't want to break the cover, but you could always look up the pattern you're supposed to if you want, and how tight you're supposed to do it. And I'll get back to you when I'm done doing this. Alright, I got all my bolts tightened to where I like them. I forgot to put the clips in that hold the wire, but I think I'll just make them work with whatever goes in these. Or I'll just zip tie it somewhere, keep it out of the way. Now, I'm not really entirely sure how the rest of this goes back on, so once I get this piece back on, hook all this back up, hook this up, hook the starter up, and then I'll get back to you when I'm filling it with oil. And I think it'll be ready to start, and get my air filter on, and then we'll see if she starts. Alright, it doesn't look very dark on camera, but it's pretty dark. Starting to struggle to see where my tools are because I got a mess everywhere. I got a lot of stuff put on. I got all that on. I got the ignition coil on. I hooked up this whole piece, which has the throttle cable on it, the governor on here. I got the piece that goes over for the air filter on. Then I gotta do the valves. I'll probably do that tomorrow when I can actually see that stuff. My starter, which is right there, I gotta put that back on. And then fill it with oil and should be ready to go. Unless that part wasn't the right part that I needed, but based on what the other 2 mowers, that one and the other one's not down here, had the same problem, which was with these camshafts. These were way easier to do, I think. Although this one I got to take the top of the engine off. On that one you had to take the engine out and flip it upside down. That was annoying. But other than that, those were pretty easy. So I'm hoping, because this was doing the same issue as those, but the fact that the engine was different, I'm hoping that was the right piece. Otherwise I'll have to look into it further, and I'm not going to get to run stuff over. And I have stuff lined up. Someone wanted water bottles, ran over. I've been collecting water bottles, and I've been getting rid of water bottles because I had so many. So I'm going to have to start collecting water bottles again to run those over. I'm going to start cleaning up before it gets dark, and I'll get back to you guys tomorrow when there's some light.